everyone. Welcome to Spotlight on the Scientist, where we have a chance to get to know scientists working to reintroduce the threatened American paddlefish to its native waters, Caddo Lake and Big Cypress Bayou. Today, we get to meet and talk with a noted aquatic biologist and invertebrate specialist for the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service out of their Texas Fish and Wildlife Conservation Office in San Marcos, Mr. Peter Diaz. Hi, Pete. Thanks for dropping back by to share some thoughts about the intricacies of bringing back a rare and threatened species and the associated monitoring so we know what we're doing here.
No problem, Gary. Glad to be here. Thanks for inviting me. Glad to be back in the area this week and chase around some paddlefish.
Before we go there, Pete, can you tell our audience where and how you got your deep understanding and a rich, overflowing toolkit of skills?
Yes, sir. Yes. I went to Texas State University in San Marcos. I got my undergraduate degree there in aquatic biology. And then I went to Texas State and I got my master's degree from there as well in aquatic resources. So a lot of schooling and then a lot of good practical knowledge with the Fish and Wildlife Service over the last couple of years.
Oh, great. Pete, I'm sure you have many interesting stories about rare and threatened and endangered species since y'all work with that a lot.
Yeah.
Could you share one or two of those with us?
You know, we had an interesting call a couple months back here in Caddo. We were driving the boat in Caddo Lake and we just got some beeps from one of the radio trackers that we had implanted in the paddlefish. So we said, let's go down this way and try to locate that fish. Let's get a signal on it. Let's figure out where it's at. And we had to veer off the boat road a little bit in order to do that. And sure enough, we found the fish. I said, here it is. This is where it's at. And we start heading back toward the boat lane. And all of a sudden, we get this giant hit into the hull of the boat. And we go, oh, what was that? And we look down, and sure enough, a bunch of water's coming in the boat. Yep. And the next thing we did was look where the water's coming from, and it was just a little high on the boat, so we were able to get back in the boat and push it all the way back to the boat dock, except for making left turns. If we made a left turn, the water would shoot about 10 to 15 feet up in the air.
Oh, my.
Yeah, so that was kind of a close call, for us at least, not so much for the species.
But you did get back to the bank.
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, that's I'm glad I was not with you that day.
Right.
But now I'd like to zero in on the American paddlefish and its reintroduction to the Caddo Lake system. I believe you have been very critical to this project from the start.
You know, the guys, everyone everyone who works with the Caddo Lake Institute and some other folks like the Collins Academy, you guys have been working on this for a while now. We kind of came into the mix so that we could help with getting the fish into the Caddo system. You know, we share the Caddo Lake with Louisiana and Texas, and that's kind of the impetus for the Fish and Wildlife Service to come in and do some of the work, since that lake is shared between Texas and Louisiana. We were glad to come and help. We started out doing the work at the paddlefish at the hatcheries in Oklahoma, where these fish were raised. And a couple weeks prior to bringing them down to Caddo, we actually went up to the hatchery at Tishomingo, and we implanted these fish with the radio tags that are inside their body cavity. That way we could locate them as they move around the Caddo system. The fish.
And did you actually do that yourself?
I did some of that work with the other project leader up at Tishomingo, Kerry Graves. So he did half, I did half. We did a total of 47 fish that day.
Did they all make it?
They all did make it, which was a nice surprise.
Wow, yeah. Well, thank you, Pete. We owe a lot to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and in particular to the Fish and Wildlife Conservation Office in San Marcos. I've got a couple of more questions for you. What's the most striking finding thus far in your study? And then what's next for the paddlefish here?
That's a good question. You know, what we've seen from the paddlefish data that we've been collecting over the last 6-7 months is a lot of the fish got in the river from both drop-off sites and swam upstream. Most of these fish made it all the way up to Lake of the Pines Dam. We've seen about a little bit over 50% of the fish below the Lake of the Pines Dam over the last 6 to 8 months. And the interesting part about that is a lot of these fish are actually staying below the dam in perpetuity for a long period of time. So these fish are finding specific places within the system that they're associating with, be it either for prey or be it for some other sort of activity with which they may need something as part of their life cycle.
That's interesting stuff, Pete. There's something about their behavior.
Yes, sir.
That, and I'll be very interested to find out the answer to that question.
We'll keep digging.
Yeah. Wow. As you've shared, Pete, a lot's happened in the past. We got a way to go. There's still plenty of important things to do with this project, and every bit of that will be led by good science. So thank you to U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. Thank you to you personally. And let me say thanks in advance for fielding questions that'll come into you over this Asking the Scientist website from our Paddlefish Project participants. So, we want to thank you, and, when you come back, we want to help you do what you need to do.
Yes, sir. Well, we appreciate it, and whatever we can do to help, we're here for you guys.